Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tim Gaither podcast, episode 102. My guest today is going to be Greg Warren. Greg Warren is one of the best comedians in the country. He was also a wrestler. He was a Division I All-American in Missouri. Super cool dude. I'm excited to have him on, and let's bring him in. So how is it in Missouri? Are you guys still locked down and all that?
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis, I think, is a little stricter than the rest of Missouri because it's worse here.
Yeah.
But they, for the most part, opened other than entertainment stuff. But they opened. I think you can go to restaurants if you wanted to. I really don't want to at limited capacity. And then I got my haircut today, which was that was the biggest the biggest win in about 10 weeks. It was getting pretty awful.
Did you have to wear a mask while you got it cut?
Yeah, I wore a mask. Yeah.
What sucks for me about the masks is I've got these really hard contacts, and every time I breathe, it like shoots my breath into my eyes and like dries it out.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think that's like you got to have some. That's because your mask isn't sealed off enough. I think is what they say. Yeah.
And then when I have my glasses on, it fogs up.
Oh, it totally fogs up with the glasses. Yeah. It doesn't. If you can seal it off, though, it won't. But it's tricky.
There's nothing that makes you look cooler than your glasses fogging up on you.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Especially like when I was in middle school and we'd have like gym or something, and then I put my glasses on afterwards. They're trying to talk to some girl and your glasses are fogging up like.
Yeah. I had glasses in middle school, and I was pretty uncool to start out with, anyways. But add in the glasses and the fog, it's over.
Yeah. Were you the funny kid when you were in school?
I was. I think I was obnoxious. I didn't have an outlet, so I was once I was comfortable on people, I was intolerably loud. I think, Now that I've got an outlet, or I did until coronavirus, I'm a little easier to handle. But yeah, I look back, I'm like, oh God, would you just shut up?
Yeah, I was kind of quiet like that. I was kind of quiet, like I would wait until I got comfortable around people, and then I was kind of funny. But up until that,
yeah,
people always assume comics are like always on and all that stuff, and most of us aren't.
No, man. I know the guys that are, and it's tough. And like I said, I think I was that guy in middle school and high school a little bit.
I can't see you being that way. You're always kind of a quiet person.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Again, I didn't have an outlet.
Yeah.
For it back then.
When's the last time you were on stage?
I think it was like I don't know, whatever that Saturday before St. Pat's Day was. I was doing a show down in Florida, and it was weird. It was like things looked good early in the week, and then by Saturday, the show was sold out, but nobody showed up.
Oh, really?
And I was supposed to work that following week. And I was like, I need to do that, honor the commitment. And then I got home Sunday, and I was like, I can't, this is wrong. I'm just going to, go inside for a while. And I called my agent. I was like, you need to cancel this week. And then, 2 days later, it was over anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was in Reno, and I kind of had a feeling it was going to be my last show for a while because they were talking. And so I wanted it to be a great show.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was like it was like kind of a smaller crowd, and which is fine. I usually, I enjoy smaller crowds a lot of times if they're sat right.
Yeah.
They were all kind of spread out, and there's a lady in the back that kept heckling me, and I was like, it's one of those things where when you want it to go really well, because you might not, know how long it's going to be, then everything goes,
Yeah.
How did you get into comedy? Like, when you were done wrestling and everything, did you?
I had sort of a lot of false starts when I went to college at Missouri, and I was on the wrestling team there, and there was a Deja Vu. You've performed there a lot of times. That was there, which is a comedy club in Columbia. And one of my buddies, the guy was like the captain of the team at the time, Craig Martin, was a bartender at Deja Vu. And again, I was like obnoxious, and so he signed me up, to be in this contest that's sponsored by Deja Vu, and I did it, and I won. And then that was early in college, and I still remember that, man. It was like it was early in the year, like, sort of September type practice. And, we had a Friday practice, and we had a pretty good team, and our coach, Wes Roper, was really, really tough guy. And,
Yeah.
No nonsense, but he, on Friday practice, our practices were brutal even earlier in the season. And he just showed up and he goes, "All right, guys, we're going to go pretty light today. We're just going to roll around for about 30 minutes. Then we're all going to go down and watch Warren do his stand-up comedy at the con." And I didn't even know he knew about it. I was like,
Really?
"This is awesome!" Like I basically got everybody out of practice for that. So that was a hero immediately.
Yeah.
But so I did that, and I did it off and on in college a few times. But I was more focused on wrestling. I was in school. I'd do it every now and then and say I was a comic, but I wasn't. And then. I got a job out of college. I worked for Procter & Gamble. I was in sales for them, selling like Pringles and Jif and Duncan Hines and all that stuff. And I was in Houston, Texas for the first 5 years, in Cincinnati, Ohio for the next 5 years. And I during that time, I sort of off and on, flirted with doing stand-up. Sometimes I'd do it and then I'd get discouraged and I'd go back to being like, well, I'm going to be a salesman, and then sort of the last 4 or 5 years, I was pretty focused on stand up. And in 2001, I quit and, started doing it full time.
So if it wouldn't have been for the bartender, would you have ever tried it?
I think I would have, I think because just being around that club, that was when we would go to see shows. It was just amazing to me, man. I was like, I can't believe people get to do this. For that's their job, It was amazing. And I didn't, when I quit my day job in 2001, I sort of was like, well, I'll eventually have to go back to selling Pringles or whatever. And I'll just do this for a couple years, just get it out of my system. And, luckily I haven't had to go back.
Was it kind of a shock when you started working other rooms? Because Deja Vu, especially back in the day, was one of the hottest rooms ever.
To be honest, like I didn't really, in college, he didn't let me go up that much and do, so I didn't do it. And Deja Vu was I don't know. I think probably the shock to me, there was a club called the Comedy Showcase down in Houston. And that's where I probably started getting regular stage time when I was living down there. And that was a notoriously easy club on the weekends, especially. So when you start doing guest spots on the weekend there, you just murder. And then I moved to Cincinnati and I was doing like Jokers in Dayton, which was not an easy club. And I was like, oh God, this is, way harder than I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to where now we've been doing it forever. I don't care that. I mean, I love doing stand up, but week to week, people are like, how's the crowd? I'm like, I did my act. You notice like if it was awful or if it was incredible, but most 80% of it's in the middle somewhere. And it's like, it went fine. I mean, I did my show. They seem, so I don't get too over. But when you're early on, you're so hung up on, was it a good crowd? Was it a good club? Was it a bad club? Just do your show, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times you think shows aren't, in your head, you're like, that kind of sucked. But then people come up and say some of the nicest things you've ever, and that is so consistent. And then some of the shows that you just kill at, people stream past you like you've got the coronavirus,
Yeah. There's no talent. Or, you think that you think your comedy special was pretty good, and then you go on YouTube and you find out it's not.
Dude, I've got this video on YouTube from like 7 years ago when I had long hair.
Yeah.
And I was at the Laugh Factory, and they had these cameras that were like eye level. So my hair, I needed a haircut anyway because it was way longer than normal, but it looked like my hair was completely in my eyes. And I had no idea they were filming, so I just showed up. And but some of the comments, the set was fine, but some of the comments were just brutal. I mean,
oh God, they'll annihilate you, man.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, if you have low self-esteem when you go into you'll be suicidal when you
they
come
will
out.
annihilate you. Don't read them. My dad's on Facebook, and he was saying I'm going to post something political on Facebook because his friends were posting stuff that he didn't agree with. I'm like, Dad, you don't understand. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to want to fight all these people. The comments you get they're not going to be good, man.
Yeah.
Well, and he's at that, like he doesn't have a whole lot of friends on Facebook. He's got his friends, whereas you and I, you got 5,000 friends. I don't pay attention to any one person at all.
Yeah.
My dad sort of feels like you got to read everything that's up there. No, you don't. You don't read anything that's up there, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. I wish I had you around whenever I go to make some stupid post, because I'm like,
nobody's gonna listen. Nobody's gonna change their mind because you posted something. Call them up. Call them up, man. Talk to them. It might work.
a lot of times if they're friends of mine, I'll just message them and be like, hey, I don't want to argue with you. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, what are we solving?
Yeah. But then, and I think since I haven't been able to go on stage like you were kind of talking about, now there's sometimes I'm just like, I got to tell everybody what I'm thinking, and I have to stop myself. Sometimes I go ahead and do it, but most of the time I'm just like, don't freaking do it.
Nah, I mean, I will be back on stage at some point. I don't know when or whatever. It's kind of, there's some comics that are like there's also stand-up comedy's dead. It's coming back. I don't know when, but it'll be back. So just,
What do you think it'll be like when it does, though? You think the audience will be masked up and?
I don't know. I mean, there's going to be this weird time for the next year that it's not going to look like normal, but eventually it's going to come back. This thing's probably not going to be here forever.
Yeah. How did you come up with that kids-friendly show, and how long of a set is that?
It's like usually I'll have a friend go up and do like 3 or 4 guys do it. Like somebody will go up and do like 10 minutes. I'll go up and do like 35 minutes of stand up. And then we'll bring the kids on stage and interview them. It's almost like a talk show.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. And it works really well if I have somebody there that I can bounce stuff off of and we can sort of interview the kids together.
Yeah.
There's about 3 or 4 guys that I work real. Brendan Ayer, Sean O'Brien, Tim Convey, Dan Swartout, all those guys, it really works well. Ryan Beck. Yeah.
I didn't realize you knew Sean O'Brien. I like that kid.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. He's probably my best friend, man. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's funny. So, Mike Birbiglia just did this. He raised a lot of money for a lot of the staff at clubs all over the country. And he raised money for the St. Louis Funny Bone. And they, for whatever reason, they were like, Greg, why don't you be the one to, we'll send you the money. And then the money goes through me. So he sent me the money. And I talked to Matt, who runs the Funny Bone, and it's like, how much should I give everybody, each part of this? He divided it up by how many hours they worked. And Sean's on this, and Sean works, he's a bartender and he does a lot for the club. So he's there every day when he's not doing jokes, he's like their, most tenured employee. So, I was like, he's my best buddy. So I sent him money, I sent his girlfriend, she waitresses there like part-time, so only picks up a few shifts. So I sent her like, her share was like $300 or something. I sent it to her. And then I sent him the 78 cents.
I just realized that the Sean O'Brien you're talking about is a different guy. I thought there's a comedian named Sean O'Brien.
Yeah, he's a comedian too. Yeah.
But I know, but this is a different guy completely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's not the guy I'm talking about. I was like, how do you know the Sean O'Brien that I'm talking about? That's you said he's your best friend. I'm like, what? I totally know who you're talking about. He's very fun.
Yeah, he's funny, dude.
I did that guest spot last time I was there, and
yeah, he's great, man.
Are you writing a lot during this quarantine?
Man, I was really going well for a while there, man. It was that first 6 weeks I kind of had the hot hand, like that 2 months leading up to the coronavirus thing. So I just sort of rode that for a while writing, but then I've been a little dry for maybe the last 3 weeks. I've been trying to do it most days, but it's not great,
Do you try to sit down at the same time every day and all that, like make it a habit?
Yeah, I've always tried to do it sometime in the morning, maybe, some event or early enough in the morning. I try to do some sort of journaling and then maybe do some kind of, flesh out some premises and stuff like that. And I'm trying to write I've had this wrestling project that I've been fooling around with for a while. It's like a animated series I'm working with this guy in New York on, and starting to make some progress on that. But that's the problem with this coronavirus is you have to like kind of, all that stuff that you said you were going to do if you ever had time to do it.
Yeah.
Like now it's like, you're not going to do that. Now I have to face up to who I really am. I've hid behind travel and a busy schedule for a long time. And now it's like, well, you really, no, maybe, are you going to be that guy or are you not? And it's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, I've probably been working harder since I'm not able to actually do my job than before.
Oh, that's good, man.
I read this book about breaking through your creative blocks, and it was talking about sitting down at the same time and making it a habit and all that. And even if what you write is crap, at least you wrote that day.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not the most spiritual guy in the world, but I do believe, like, as a comic, if you get those sort of moments where you just get an idea out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I do believe, like, if you do the work in the morning, you hammer stuff out, that you will set your mind up a little better to receive those, sort of divine intervention type things.
Yeah.
And then every night, and then you do, when you're grinding it out in the morning, sometimes you actually do get some good stuff. But, I mean, I was, like I said, it was going great for about a month, man. But
yeah. Well, and a lot of times positive things seem to happen when you're trying to do positive things.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, I've said this before, but like, even if it's just like cleaning out your garage or something, the next thing I know, I'll get an email from a booker that I haven't heard from in a couple of years. And I'm like, oh, sweet. And it seems like it's just because I was doing something positive,
Yeah.
I've noticed a trend that way. I wanted to ask you, do you ever eat it anymore?
Yeah. I mean, not too bad. I mean, I think it would be rare for me to eat it in a headline set in a comedy club, but if you take it, if you put it in the wrong setting where it's a corporate gig or something like that, and it could happen. I mean, I had, and I lived in New York for 5 years, and I had a couple rough sets there, it took me a while to figure out the rhythm of that. And even then, there could be some rough ones.
But is there any particular like headline set at a club that you remember fairly recently that was awful or anything?
Not really. Like I said, a headline set at a club is a pretty good situation because you got so much time to dig out of it. I mean, I sort of, we know a lot of tricks. I've been doing this for a long time. I know a lot of tricks. So now in a 10-minute set in New York, following Kevin Hart, that could be, like, you don't have time to pull it all together. And that's that's a tough thing. But in a hour-long set on the road, when some people came to see you, and it's, like, if I kind of let myself off the hook where it's like, hey, it didn't work in that, it probably wasn't going to work anyways, because I know enough tricks. Like, I'm trying every trick in the book. Now, there's shows that went better than other ones, but yeah, I mean, I've had some corporates that didn't always go the best.
What's the worst gig you ever did?
Man, I don't know. Well, I did a gig this year. It was a lucrative corporate gig. It was up in Indiana, and it was for the Amish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was not an easy gig. It was in this giant warehouse, like where they were like they made furniture or something there, and they brought all the Amish in, the employees, and they had this big meal. And the setting itself wasn't, the sound wasn't good.
Yeah.
But even with a great sound, it would have been tricky. Like, and that one was rough, man. That was extremely rough, man. They seemed fine with it too. Like the guy that was in charge, he seemed like he didn't have a problem with it. But
yeah,
I was like, that was not too good, man.
I can't even imagine. I didn't know the Amish even did stuff like that.
Yeah, I wound up like in the middle. I was like, I brought an Amish guy on stage and like interviewed him a little bit.
Yeah.
And that worked to some degree, but yeah, that was bad, man. That was.
Yeah, I bet. Sometimes you just have to take the check and just kind of get the heck out of there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I talk about it where it used to get to me, when I had a bad set, it would get to me and it stings. And it would take me 2 months. I'd carry it around for 2 months. I just carried around almost as if I had to introduce myself as the guy. Like, yeah, hey, I'm Greg Warren. I'm that guy that had that horrible show, 6 weeks ago. I'm sure you heard about it. I almost feel like I had to confess it. And now the thing that bothers me is when it happens, it stings about as much. It still stings the same. And I'm like, I thought I was done with this. Like, how am I doing this 20? I've had some success, and then, but I'm over it the next day. Like your recovery time gets way, way better. Like when I wake up, I'm like, all right, what's the next thing?
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
I ate it really bad at a place called The Parlor in LA. I don't know if you ever did that.
Oh yeah, I heard about that set, man.
It could be a really it could be a really good place, or it could just be awful. And like the first time I was there, the guy came up and he was like, "Man, people don't usually do that well here. Good job. We'd love to have you back." And I'm like, "All right, cool." I went back like 2 weeks later, kind of cocky, and I just ate it so hard. I had sweat rolling down my back.
Yeah, man.
When I finally got a laugh, it threw me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. I was so used to getting kicked in the balls, I didn't realize you guys ever laugh or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a couple, like I did one event for the Cardinals and the St. Louis Cardinal baseball team, and a bunch of their fans. And like nobody's listening.
Yeah.
And that was brutal because I'm a huge Cardinal fan. So I'm looking out at all these guys that I could tell you the lifetime stats of people that aren't enjoying what I'm doing, and then, I used to get tricked into doing wrestling stuff all the time. Like, everybody for a while, they would call me up, "Hey, do this wrestling show." And I'll be like, "Well, tell me the setting." And I would be like, "No, man, I know wrestlers. Those guys are my friends. They're not going to be paying attention. They're going to want to talk to each other." And they'd be like, "Come on, man, you're doing it for wrestling." The last time I got tricked into that was like Beat the Streets, when they were trying to raise money for the Olympics or whatever. And they were like, and I love those guys and I love the cause and everything. I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I hear this setting, and I'm telling you, this is not going to work. Like, nobody's going to be paying attention. They kind of guilt. They'll give you tickets to see them come watch Iran. And they're doing great work. And they're raising money for kids. And, I was like, all right, I'll go, and sure enough, I got up there and I could tell 5 seconds in, I was like, this is a bad idea, man. This was no, you can't, when they're not listening, it's real hard to get them, especially, I mean, I'm fairly subtle, so I'm bigger than a lot of people, but, I can get loud and that kind of thing, but, I'm not like a one-liner guy, but there's some subtlety, and it's like, oh, this is bad, man. How did I get tricked into this again? I remember that I was so bummed out. And there's all these wrestling, all my favorite wrestlers, Gable, and all these guys, and Mark Ruffalo was there, the actor, and I met him. He's such a nice guy. Like, all these people that I admire, and I just ate it so hard. I mean, it was terrible. Yeah. And I walked out. It was in New York, and I walked outside. I was living in New York. I was walking home, and I was getting ready to walk home, and I was like, my head was spinning. And saw Kyle Dake there, who I don't know well, but I'm a big fan of his wrestling. And he's like, "Hey, man, he'd seen me do some of the videos I did back in the day or whatever. And we talked for a while. He's like, "Oh, man, you're great." Like, he was really cool. When you have those moments and you meet somebody that's really cool, it definitely sticks with you. Yeah.
And
a lonely walk home.
Easier.
What's that?
Made the walk home a little easier?
Like 2%. I still beat myself up pretty hard on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when it's not going well and there's somebody in the crowd that you really respect. Like when we did that thing for Ohio State, I did it once with BT and once with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Those were fun. Yeah.
Those were good, but there was
it's in a comedy club though, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes all the difference in the world. But
yeah,
I was Tom Ryan was right in the front, and some of the stuff he laughed at and some he didn't. And I'm trying not to look at him, like,
yeah.
He's sitting right freaking there though.
I wrestled Ryan, man. We were in the same weight class.
That's man. Right. 150 or 58.
158. Yeah. In college. Yeah. It was my senior year. I think it was his junior year. Yeah. Okay. Well, we wrestled. We didn't wrestle in the tournament. We didn't wrestle. We were both in the same weight class. He got second and I got seventh. But the summer before, we had wrestled at a freestyle tournament. He beat me. It was a real close match. But Yeah, he beat me. Yeah, he was good, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he got real good. Yeah.
How long when did you start wrestling?
I was like 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your dad was the coach, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He was my coach.
Yeah. What's it like having your dad for the coach?
Um, it was,
Was he your high school coach too?
yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was tricky and rewarding. I mean, it's something that he and I share, and it's great because we can always talk wrestling. We go to try, I'm bummed out. We were going to go to the Olympic trials together.
Okay.
So we do a lot of stuff together. It's fun, but it was it was tricky.
Yeah.
He was a good coach, and I think it probably made things a little hard on my mom a little bit. At the time,
Yeah.
I have the joke where I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, it was people are like, oh, your dad pushed you. I'm like, yeah. He pushed me in sports. You know, that's that's a normal thing to push your kids. There's some people out there who spend their whole lives trying to find Bigfoot. I mean, how'd you like to have that guy as a dad? Do you even want to find Bigfoot, son? You don't act like it. I hear you saying you want to find him, but you don't do anything about it. You sleep till noon. Bigfoot doesn't get up at noon. He gets up at 4:14 in the morning. So, and on some levels, at least he pushed me in a relatively normal field, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Were you good from the start?
Yeah, I was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I didn't lose a lot as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't like I think as a kid, I would usually get placed in the top 2 or 3 in the state,
Almost every year?
Yeah, pretty much. I think every year I always place somewhere in the top 3 or 4 in the state, usually in 1 or 2. But that I would lose, every other year or whatever.
Yeah. Every other year? So you're pretty damn good.
I was good. No, I mean, I don't remember too much, but yeah, as a kid, I had a dad who was a wrestling coach, and I was decent. So
Yeah.
and then, I mean, we'd go out of state sometimes. We go to Kansas, and I'd lose there and stuff like that. But I won most of the time when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, Missouri's a pretty tough state too. So
Yeah, I think it is. It's better now than it was. It was decent.
Yeah.
I think now it's even better. Yeah.
did you grow a lot in high school? I know you were a 2-time state champ your junior and senior year, right? What did you start?
Yeah.
What weight?
I start out 112 and I finish up at 145.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like 112, 119, 138, 145. Yeah.
Okay. How'd you do your first 2 years?
Like my first year, I didn't qualify for the state tournament, and I was, I had a winning record as a freshman. I probably lost 10 matches or something. And then, that summer I did there was a junior college that right about a mile from my house, Merrimack Junior College. And,
Okay.
I would go up there and work out all spring and summer. And then the next year I got like, 5th or something in the state as a sophomore, and probably lost 5 or 6 matches. And then that summer in between sophomore and junior years when I really, I competed around a lot and went up to Merrimack every day, and I learned, and and then I think I probably, I lost maybe once my junior year and tied a match my senior year or something. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you ended up going to Missouri. What was it like your freshman year?
Well, I went to the military academy my first year. I went to West Point my first year of college,
Okay.
actually. I was there for the full year, and then I transferred to Mizzou.
Did you wrestle at West Point?
Yeah, I did. I was hurt a lot. I had a back problems, and I didn't wrestle much. But yeah, and then I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I came home from West Point. It was really sort of not. Even at that point, I was like, maybe I'll become a comedian, and Wes Roper came to my house like 2 days later and offered me a scholarship. And my dad sort of was like, he in his own way sort of pushed me. He's like, and I wanted it, So then I got to Mizzou and wrestled there for 4 years. And it was, it was tough, man. It's a whole different, college wrestling it's alarming,
Right. Did you redshirt that year then?
I think they counted West Point as a redshirt year.
Okay.
And then when I got to Mizzou, there's a guy named Mike Gilsdorf who was a senior when I got there, and he wrestled 150, and we had a wrestle off at 150. And I was a freshman my first year. And I swear, Tim, that was one of the best matches I've ever wrestled. It was just wrestling him in a wrestle off. And he was good. And we had a battle in that wrestle off, and I tore my knee. I wound up having knee surgery, and he hurt his shoulder. So that first year, it was kind of I did wrestle some, but I was hurt, and I wasn't. I don't know. I think my head wasn't all the way in it, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I need to toughen it up a little bit. And then I did wrestle some because I think he got hurt a little bit. I wrestled some varsity matches, but my after that I wrestled, started for them and wrestled all the time.
Yeah, it is alarming. I was telling somebody recently that I wrestled from 7 to 21 and never had any cauliflower ear, any of that stuff. And then within a week of college practice, I had cauliflower ear.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah.
From the physicality of it,
Yeah. It's a little more intense.
Yeah. How was Wes Roper as a coach?
He was great, man. Yeah, I mean, he was really, he was tough. He was real good to me. He was extremely loyal. But he didn't let you. He didn't really let you get away with anything other than your best. We wrestled a pretty brutal practice schedule. Like we wrestled a lot of live, man. And Wes was, Wes was around my weight. So, and a lot of guys got hurt around my weight over the last couple of years. So Wes was a guy that I wrestled with every day in practice. We were workout partners, and it was not fun to wrestle him. And then, but we wrestled a tough schedule. We wrestled like all the Big 8 teams. We were in the Big 8 back then, and we'd go up and wrestle a lot of the Big 10 teams. We wrestled Midlands. We'd go wrestle the Northern Open, which was a bunch of, Big 10 teams over Thanksgiving. And so like by the time we got to nationals, I remember my senior year, by the time I got to nationals, you'd see these guys that were like 31-1 from Brown. And I remember my dad being like, this guy here, you got next, he's 31-1. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care, man. I wrestle guys that are going to be in the Olympics already. It does not matter to me. I was hardened, and I owe that to Wes. Because he just sort of got us used to a certain level of competition.
Yeah, if you're wrestling a beast like that every day.
You wrestle on him, and then we wrestle on Iowa State or Oklahoma State or any of those guys. I wrestled a bunch of big names back then. I didn't beat many of them or any of them.
Did you ever wrestle in Carver Hawkeye?
My senior year, that's where the national tournament was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the only time I did though.
Yeah. Because I've heard stories about wrestling there, like duels and stuff.
I think luckily I was hurt when we had a duel against them. I think it was like we were supposed to duel them like my sophomore year or something. I was hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't go. And I think they could be hard on you.
What position were you best in, and what was the hardest? Was getting off the bottom? Was that the hardest thing to? I guess that's kind of a.
I think getting off the bottom. Was one of the toughest transitions to make from high school to college. That was real tough, and it didn't go well. I mean, I wrestled. We were at Northern Iowa, and this was one of these times when I was a freshman that I was in the lineup. I don't know what it was. I think Gilly was hurt or something, and I didn't cut my weight right. I was a freshman, and they had a good team. They had like a top 5 team, and it was in that West Gym in Northern Iowa where it's really loud, and the crowd is knowledgeable and into it. And it was like a minute and a half in, and I had nothing, and I was just on the bottom the whole time, and I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
And I almost got stalled out of the match, and the ref was like playing to the crowd. He at one point he goes, "Are you okay down there, son?" And the crowd just starts laughing, and that was brutal. And
man.
It's awful, man. And Roper, those guys, Roper and Whalen, my coaches, that I remember there was a good, and Darren Davis, who was a kid from Kansas City, who was a weight class above me, he was having trouble getting off the bottom too. And I mean, there was just 2 weeks of practice where, we were on bottom every go.
Yeah.
Get back down, Warren, back down, Davis. And, it was brutal. And, but then I don't know, like something clicked right around into my freshman year, and I just don't remember ever having too much of a problem getting off bottom. I mean, I remember I wrestled a guy named Joe Reynolds, who was a national champ from Oklahoma one year. And Joe he had this tight waist where it felt like he wrapped around your waist like 6 times or something. And I had a hard time with him. I always had a hard time getting out from under Todd Chesbrough from Oklahoma State, but I don't day and day. I didn't really struggle getting out after that. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah. After it clicked.
Yeah, I think that, and then, you learn to cut off leg attacks a lot better. And then you also learn, like when you're in high school, man, at least things are different now. These kids are, but when I was in high school in the 80s, if you're in on a good shot, you're finishing. That's it. And then you get to college and you're like, you're in on a perfect shot and you're finishing 13% of the time, Yeah.
I've noticed that every position with the good guys is a fight. That's what they're always talking about, like wrestle through your position and all that stuff. But
yeah.
It's one thing.
It's so advanced now.
Yeah. When you were in college, freshmen doing well was pretty rare, and now a lot of freshmen do really well.
Yeah, not to the degree. I mean, there were some superstars, but not like this. Yeah.
I already asked you that. Who do you think the best guy you ever wrestled was?
Man, that's a good question. I would have to say Tim Krieger from Iowa State.
Really?
Was way up there. Yeah. Krieger was 2-time national champ, and I think he got second maybe once and maybe twice. I don't know. He didn't look like physically intimidating, but he was just punishing the way that he wrestled. You feel like you were in a fight afterwards.
Yeah.
So he was it's like Pat Smith. I wrestled Pat Smith. That was probably, if you look at, that was probably the best guy that I wrestled. He's one of the best guys to ever wrestle in college. And it was funny wrestling him. Like, it wasn't at all like Krieger. Like I think I lost, 10-2 or 10-3 against Pat Smith, and I wasn't breathing heavy and I didn't feel beat. He was just too slick. I was always off balance. He was just too slick and I couldn't catch up to him, but I wasn't tired. Where Krieger, I felt like I never want to wrestle again after I wrestled Krieger. I wrestled Townsend Saunders in the Nationals one year, and he if you look at like accomplishments, I think he got a silver medal in the Olympics. And I actually it was a go with him. Like that was a good match. It was like my junior year, and it was like 6-3 or something. That was a go.
Yeah.
But I think I've told you that Krieger story before, but I think I wrestled Krieger twice. And one time when I wrestled him, I think it was the first time I was pretty good with like a leg Suzeski move. So, and he was banged up, I guess so we're wrestling and I got on top of him and I put the figure 4 in and I started working a leg Suzeski and I couldn't turn him, but like it hurt him a little bit and they stopped the match, and he'd been banged up and he went over to his corner to get taped up, and I go over to my corner, and I'm thinking, yeah, Roper's finally going to be, proud of me. He goes, Warren, he goes, I'm not sure I would have pissed this guy off, man. He goes, he's a fucking animal. He's going to try and kill you now. Yeah. And he did, man. It was like he was kind of banged up and I'm sure he was like, yeah, I got this guy, this freshman from Missouri. I'm just going to sort of cruise and win the match, 9-3 and not have to get. And then after I hurt his leg, it was like, no, I'm going to try to hurt this kid. And and it was rough, man. Yeah, it was pretty rough.
That's so funny that your coach would be like, I don't know. You're doing great impersonation of him. You sound just like him. Somebody that was on your team, I think he was on your team, Eric Devaney or something.
Yeah, Goofball. Yeah.
He messaged me. I've talked to him a few times since I did the Sammy Henson interview, or maybe after I did the Wes Roper interview.
Sammy was on my team too, man.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. His freshman year. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Sammy and I. We went to the Nationals together. That my senior year and his freshman year. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So you were All-Americans. How many All-Americans did they have that year?
2. Yeah.
Nice.
Which was a good year for us back then. We were good, but we weren't like they are now. We would consistently finish like in the top 20 or something.
Yeah, well, I don't think the average person realizes what a big deal placing in the top 8 is at the NCAA Division One tournament. I mean, I know you're modest about it, but it's a big freaking deal, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's funny. I talk about it, or people have, but I'm like, man, just think. But some of these guys, they're so much better than I mean, it was a real big deal for me. And I look back, I'm like, I probably should have been better. I had a dad as a coach, and I probably should have got. But it was a big. I mean, it was a big deal to me. And if you want to know the truth, I probably wrestled the best tournament of my life that weekend. I just the first match I got beat by this guy Dave Walter, who wound up getting third. And it was a good match, but he beat me, and then I had to come all the way back to wrestlebacks. And, I wound up knocking off a couple pretty good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many matches did you have to win before you were even an All-American?
I think 3. Yeah. I think I lost 1 and then I had to win 3 to place. Yeah.
Was that the best? What was the best win of your career?
Probably the match to place. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple other ones that were decent, but I look back and I get a little disappointed with myself because I beat a lot of the people that I should, and I lost to a lot of the people that I shouldn't. And I wrestled tough. I wrestled a couple of really good guys tough. Like I mean, I look back, like I wrestled Steve Hamilton, who was really good. I never beat him, but I wrestled him tough, and that wasn't that was a decent match. I feel okay about it. I wrestled Joe Reynolds pretty tough from Oklahoma. Townsend Saunders, I wrestled tough, but but yeah, the best match was probably, I beat the guy that's the coach of Michigan now, Sean Bourmet. I beat him to place. Yeah. But the thing is, Bourmet was a freshman and I was a senior, and he was still seated like 5th and I was unseated, but yeah, I know Sean now. He's a great guy, and he wound up being a much, much, much better wrestler than I was. But yeah, that was probably the best match I wrestled.
Yeah. Does anything stand out in your memory as like the hardest loss you ever took?
Man, that's a great question. I could probably just go over to my dad's house and see what he's watching, because those seems like he's always watching the ones that I lost. Like, I won a ton. Why are you watching this?
Yeah.
You learn more from the losses. And like, I'm 50. What am I going to learn? Yeah. Yeah. I tied a guy my senior year in high school, and that was tough. He was good. He wound up winning. He went down a weight class and won it. But I gassed. Those are probably the worst ones. Is when I gassed.
Yeah.
And that happened a few times.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being in a match and just having nothing. And I got taken down once in a college match 13 times. And I don't think I got taken down that many times in high school, including practice probably.
13?
I mean, this guy just was kicking my ass all over the place. I had no answer for anything he did. I was totally out of breath in the first period. It was just awful. And
it sucks, isn't it? You're in for it. I mean, yeah, that was those were there's a guy from Eastern Illinois, Terry something, Ferry, I can't remember. And I think it was like my junior or senior year, maybe senior. And I was up big and I gassed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't finish, man. And I lost that, that was not good. And, my junior year, I lost in the blood round and the guy was good. And I look back, man, and I probably should have a little mental. I wish I would have talked to somebody. And I think I'm a little bit OCD, and I think I got in my head way too much. And I think I was I got my own way a lot, but I don't think I expected to place that year. And that match was against this guy, T-Don Fleischman from New Mexico. And it was, the blood round, and it was a tough match. And I was really going hard, and I lost, and he beat me. It was no fluke. He beat me, but it was close. And that one, it hit me harder. I was like, man, I just could have been an All-American, and I came this close, that one hurt, Then you ever have those matches where it's just like, you're wrestling fine, you're wrestling hard, and you're not, but you just do dumb stuff, or you just don't match up right with a guy. I wrestled a guy from Wyoming one time where I was like, I should have beat that guy, man, but it didn't work out, you know?
Yeah. Some of the best matches I ever had, I was telling somebody the other day that I think it was Jerry Abbas. Speaking of gassing out, I mean, that match he had with Lincoln McElravy in the NCAA finals, I was watching it before I interviewed him, and you could just see it all over him in that third period. And 20 years later, I know he's going to lose, but I'm like, just hang on, dude. And, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
But I had him on here, and I was talking about how some of my best matches were ones that I lost. And one that stands out in my mind, I was wrestling a kid that was had won Missouri State the year before, and I was beating him 4-0, and he was like 2 weight classes bigger than me. My team had put me in the wrong weight class, but I was beating this kid, and then he hit me with some 5-point move, and you know that was 30 years ago, and I still think about it every now and again.
Who was it, man?
His name was Matt Quarles. Did you know that guy? Matt Corley. I think that's how you say his last name, Matt Corley.
Yeah, I don't think I knew him. Yeah.
Anyway, you have some hilarious bits about like you used to. I don't know if you still do the joke about I can't eat one cookie. I either eat no cookies or 40 cookies.
Oh yeah, that's going. I don't remember. Yeah, I remember the bit. I don't remember all of it. But yeah. I've struggled with food over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Does anything still remain from your wrestling days as far as eating and all that? Like, do you have any borderline eating disorders?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure I would have been diagnosed with like binge disorder, you know, or not that I was throwing up or whatever, but you know, in my 30s, 20s and 30s, I would just go, you know, every now and then just have a bad day and you just eat as much as you can. And then instead of throwing up, I just work out hard, you know, but I had some stomach issues, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I had to see this holistic doctor and really change some stuff. And since I did that, I don't really, I mean, I don't really probably do insane stuff, you know, like I used to. I think when I was at the bottom, I was like, you know, I'd go late at night in LA to some convenience store and I'd buy like one of those, that Oreo ice cream, you know, and I'd buy like a whole pint of it. And then I was like, you know what, I don't think that they put enough Oreos in this ice cream. So I would just buy some Oreos to put into the ice cream, you know? Yeah. And I remember like, you know, it's some checkout lady at like 3 a.m, you know, and she's like, you know, there's already, or I know, I fucking know, like, I know, don't, you know? So I think like, and then I think at one point I was like, I don't think 1 pint of ice cream is enough of, you know, of Ben and Jerry. So, and then I was like, I think I got some issues here. And you know, I remember at one point I went to like, this is when I was living in LA, so it's quite a while ago. But I was like, I probably have some mental issues. You know, this is not normal. And I went to some therapist. You know, I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy about, you know, and I felt ridiculous. You know, and actually I believe in therapy, and you know, but I went. And it was some guy, and we're sitting in the afternoon, and you know he's asking me, and I'm just, I don't know. It's my first time. I'm like, yeah, man, you know, I eat cookies, you know, and he says, and the dude like he fell asleep while I was telling him about eating cookies, man. He's like, he's sleeping, and I didn't even know what to say. Like I didn't want to. I felt I'm like, you should sleep, man. This is stupid. I don't have real problems. I'm talking about eating cookies, and he likes nodding off, and then he woke himself up, and he goes, I'm sorry, man. He's like, I was up with the suicidal guy, you know, this last night. I was up, you know, all night with this guy who had paranoid. I'm like, well, that's where you should be. I'm leaving, man. Let's not, you know, I shouldn't be in here talking about cookies, wasting your time or whatever, man. I haven't thought about that in a while.
Yeah, that made me laugh, dude. You're just a funny person. You're just one of those
thanks. You too, man.
And you're one of those people that just talks, and it's freaking funny. Somebody told me, I don't think it was you, but somebody told me that you wouldn't weigh yourself like at the doctor's office. You wouldn't scale. Is that true?
I won't. Yeah, it's been. I once in 1991 Nationals, I got off the scale and I was like, I'm not getting back on.
Yeah.
And I've had some, you know, I'll go in there and they'll be like, you know, there's always a nurse or somebody. And they're like, you got to get on the scale. I'm like, no. I'm like, no, you got to get on the scale. I'm like, I don't. I'm not getting on there, and then every now and then the doctor will be like, we need to get your weight. I'm like, well, you're not going to get it,
Yeah.
and then they'll be like, well, it's important. I'm like, why is it important? I'm like, well, for instance, medication,
Yeah.
there's different for different weights. There's different medication levels. I'm like, well, I can tell you this. I weigh somewhere between 175 and 200. How different is the medication at 175 than it is at 200? And I'm sure the guy's like, what a dick, I'm like, I'm not doing it. They're like, why not? I'm like, it's too hard to explain. I spent my whole childhood on scales. I'm not getting back on the damn scale.
Did you explain it to them? Like,
I've said it, most of now they're just kind of like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. It's funny. Like there's this overweight nurse one time. She's the only one that really understood, like I get on this, she goes, get on the scale. I'm like, I don't get on the scale. She's like, that's cool.
Yeah, even now, whenever I go to the doctor's office before I weigh, I always think to myself, I'm just going to pull a Greg Warren. I'm just not going to get up there.
Do it, man. They can't hold you. They won't do it,
You know what else bothers me about it, though, is like, wrestling as long as I did, now when I get on the scale, I want to go, well, you should probably take off at least 3 pounds from my clothes.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say it to them. And they're like, 167. I'm like, damn it, I just weighed this morning. I'm 164. Can you just
Yeah.
So
and you can surf off, did you know those guys? And there's those guys, man, that tell you they could surf off like a pound, by leaning. There's guys.
Yeah, we didn't call it that. We just God, we did some scandalous stuff when I was like a freshman. I remember somebody lifting up on somebody's like butt cheek.
Yeah.
Like scale and one guy walked in one morning and this guy had a dime and he was cranking on the scale and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I didn't even know
Those
that.
guys they'd put their thumbs like on the height thing and push down on it. There's it's funny. Like I spent my life in comedy, my adult life in comedy, hopefully refining, spend a lot of time on what's really funny. And I still am not sure that I will ever write anything as funny as when your buddy's on the scale and you put your foot on the scale behind him and he doesn't know it. And he starts freaking out because he's like, and the coach is like, you're 15 over. Coach, I swear to God, I was 2 over. Yeah. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. There's just nothing funnier than me than that's ever. Nothing will ever be that funny, man.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever be that funny.
Yeah. Was it a cool feeling your senior year to know that you were an All-American and sit in the stand and watch the finals? Was it way?
That was probably the coolest. That was it was fun. And my dad was there, and my mom and a couple of friends, and some of the guys on the team, and it was. I just felt like, and again, I look back, I probably should have done better. Like I think I should have probably placed a couple more times. I had talent, and I had the right, I had great parents, and I had all the right, support system, but. I think I probably needed some work on my mental. I've talked over the years to some of the. It's neat because I've done these comedy things at wrestling. You get to meet all these great guys, and one of the guys I've liked to listen to is Tervel. He's got some really interesting. He's got some really, really interesting theories about wrestling and wrestlers, and he talks, and I'm like, man, that was me. I wish I'd have known this guy back then because I was so OCD and it's so irrational thinking. And it wasn't Roper's fault. He tried everything he could to get, it's just the sport has advanced a little bit, but I couldn't get out of my own way. But, and then I see guys also that were way better than I was and never made All-American. The brackets just don't line up sometimes. So, yeah, to answer your question, I was really, it was one of those nights when I was just really, really, had this feel like I had this weight lifted off of me.
Yeah.
I was really happy. My dad was, he was really, really happy. And I think it made it, I remember, I used to wrestle Todd Chesborough a lot from Oklahoma State, who was a really good wrestler.
Yeah.
And Todd's dad was Tommy Chesborough, who was, the coach of Oklahoma State a while back, big time wrestling guy. And for a guy like my dad, that's Tommy Chesborough, and I didn't know. I think that last year Todd was in a different weight than I was, and I didn't know him well or anything. I just lost to him basically, but I think when I made All-American, they just happened to be sitting in the same area, and Tommy Chesborough came up to my dad and said, "Hey, that was great, man. It was nice to see." And I think that really made him happy. He was happy anyways, but it was a neat moment for him, and he likes talking about that, so it was cool. And the finals that year were pretty. That's when, God, I can't remember everybody that was in it, but it was. That's when Jason Kelber beat Terry Brands, I think, in the finals that year, and that was a crazy match.
Yeah.
It was, I think, man, I can't remember whether that was the year that that might have been the year that Mark Ryland threw Randleman on his head, basically, Kevin Randleman, and beat him. He threw him one time and beat him. I can't remember if that was in the finals or the semis, but yeah, there was, it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I read about that in Sports Illustrated, that tournament. I remember reading about Jason Kelper beating Terry Brands and all that.
Yeah.
Pretty big deal. And I heard that Brands, like, I don't know if it's true, but I heard he like threw a garbage can through a window.
I've heard that stuff. Yeah. Those guys, they used to, when they were freshmen, they would lose. Not much, but I mean, or it might have been red shirts or whatever. But I think Bobby Crawford might have beat one of them one time. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I don't want those guys chasing me down, trying to kill me or something. But I met Terry one time. He couldn't have been nicer. Actually, he's real. When I was doing a comedy thing for USA Wrestling, yeah. But when they would lose, when they were like redshirt freshmen, and they were younger guys, and my friend Danny Hayes would follow in the locker room just to see what they were going to break, basically. Yeah. I mean, they didn't lose much, but when you're a redshirt freshman, you're going to lose every now and then.
Yeah. What the heck was I going to say? Oh, what's an example of you say you got in your own head and you're kind of neurotic about stuff? What was an example of that?
Man, I think I was like superstitious about, a little bit about how matches would go. And then I think sometimes I just didn't, if I would have just wrestled and enjoyed wrestling, I would have done well. But I just kept thinking about, like, it was all about the result. I got way too attached to the result. And sometimes I would just be like, there's no way I'm going to win this match. This guy, and that's not how wrestlers are taught to act, and nobody talks about it. But I think the fact, if I could have been honest with that to people back then, they would have been like, all right, this is how we fix it. Because whenever you talk to your coach, he's like, you going to win tonight? You'd be like, yeah, I'm going to win. And then in my head, I was like, to be real honest with you, man, I was looking at the numbers on this thing. Probably not, man. This guy. You can't. If I said that to Roper, he would have just shorted out. Yeah, but I think in my head, I was like, yeah, man, I don't see it happening. I mean, I'm going to try, but I'm looking at the numbers on it, and I'm looking at, he beat this guy 17-4 that I lost to. I'm not a dumb guy. The odds are not good. That's not the way you should be thinking. But I think if you could be honest about those thoughts with somebody and open, that I think maybe I could have found a way out of that, and realize that I just think there was a lot of irrational thinking, and just go out there and wrestle. And what is, now you and I have these separate careers, and it's like, what does it matter? If I'd have just, but that's part of the sport, that's, I didn't conquer that. Probably the best match I wrestled that year, I lost. And it was, so I made All-American, and then you go that sort of consolation semis to see whether you go for 7th and 8th or 3rd through 6th. And it's right afterwards. It's that night. So I wrestle this guy, Jason Suter from Penn State, and I'm just working him. Tim, I am working him. I'm up like 6-2. I'm just shooting double legs and just killing him and having fun. I don't care at that point. I'm like, I already sort of accomplished my goal. And then he got me in like a Peterson roll and got 5 points, and I lost. And it was terrible. But there was about 4 minutes that I was so free that I was just killing this guy, and I wound up losing. But yeah.
Yeah, I try not to spend too much time thinking about it, but there's definitely things I wish I would have done different. And part of it is not worrying so much. Like,
Yeah.
now I'm 45. I'm looking back on it like, yeah, of course it doesn't matter. But tell that to yourself when you're a kid.
It's hard, man. You're a kid, man. It does. It's the biggest thing. The thing that I wish that I would have done more than anything is kept had a little more intellectual curiosity about wrestling, like kept a learning curve. Like I think I got a little burnt out, a little beat up, and I was not really seeking out new techniques and enjoying the sport from that aspect. My last couple of years, and that was nobody's fault but my own. I should have, because when I was always learning stuff and trying to discover new moves, and part of it is that college season just beats on you so hard. It's like, I just want to get through. I had a couple good techniques and I just sort of learned to limit it. But if I would have been a little more expansive, I think that might have made things fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was not very strategic, man. I just kind of went. I wasn't a dumb guy, but I wrestled sort of like a dumb guy. I mean, I'll tell you, my friend Chip Bunner. I remember the wrestlebacks my senior year. I was it was that guy I told you, that guy from Brown that was like 31-1 or whatever,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't know about this guy or whatever. And Chip had watched him. Chip watched him the match before. He goes, Warren, you got no problem with this guy. He's a right leg. He leads his right leg. And I sort of had this, it was like a poor man's John Smith low single. Like if the guy led his right leg, I would hop back a couple times and get him to step with that right leg. And I took that guy down like 3 times right away. Boom, 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 boom. I had him. And I could do that on guys if I'd never wrestled them before. If I'd wrestled them before, they scouted me and they wouldn't do it. But like that was, strategic, and I should have been able to do some of that on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing sweeter than hitting a low level. I didn't score with a lot of them. I was good at getting to the angle and getting to it, but I finishing was another story, especially in college.
Really?
Yeah, but there's nothing prettier than a good low level.
Yeah, especially if the one that I would, that one, it was, what was great about it was there was no, I either hit it and he went to his butt and it was 2, or I missed it. There wasn't, that dogfight where you get in on a double or single and you're just it's like, all right, you're going to get brutalized for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe score.
When you said that you were superstitious, is that like mainly in like your preparation before your matches?
Oh yeah. I would be like, I'm not sure how much of an insane person I want to reveal that I am, but I remember like, you got to go to the bathroom an even amount of times, or you got to have your hand over the right place during the Star Spangled Banner, and like just crazy stuff. And it was in my head, and I was like, you got to do this,
Yeah. Dude, it's not crazy to me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I didn't recognize, and I've recognized it in later life, because I have seen a therapist, and he was like, yeah, you got some OCD issues, and your mind's playing tricks on you, basically.
Yeah. I do the same kind of crap. I used to have my socks pulled up the same way. Just all kinds of little things, and if I lost a match, I could always think back on, it's because you used the wrong stall in the bathroom. That's why you lost.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I was a kid, my friend Jacob Niederheiser and I, who passed away not too long ago,
oh man,
we used to go into the restroom, and before the tournament would start, and we'd pick our stall that we were going to use all day long. And as long as you won, you kept using that stall.
Yeah, man.
If you got beat, then you go pick a different stall to take the hex off. But the worst part was like if you were in the finals and you had to go take a poop or something, and you go in there and somebody would be in your stall, and you're like,
what are you doing, man?
How are you going to be in there? And you're like, there's like stalls, and you're like, I can't use that stall, you idiot.
And I remember like, I would just always think of the worst thing that could happen. Like my senior year, other than that guy that I tied, like who went down a weight class, I wasn't going to lose, man. I was way better than most of the guys I was wrestling, And I remember I'd have myself psyched out, I was like, man, this guy is, he's good. I'm going to lose this match. I beat him 15-1. Like it was useless. I think that, there's some people you have to be stressed out, and there's probably some degree of that, but there's a point where there's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
I think I got superstitious when you're talking about the bathroom thing. I think I remember being like when I was later after college, like in my 20s, and you're going to bars and trying to meet women. I remember like there's like, oh, hey, that one time I met this girl here and we hooked up, we got to always go to that bar. You're like, yeah, no, that was that was a very rare occurrence for you, Gray. You know, it's not even a bar anymore. It's an Arby's. I don't care. We're going there. We're going to,
You do any of the same things with comedy? Like, do you have to have certain, do you have a routine and all that? And do you get in your head if you don't do it?
Not much. I mean, I think, yeah, I've done some dumb stuff with comedy, but never anything but, like TV performances, cause I don't take it that seriously when I'm just doing there's so many shows, so, but there's been a few TV performances when I sort of like psyched myself out and you just get in your head, you're like, I'm going to forget what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
And I, there's a few of those where I just, I was okay, but I could have been better if I'd have been.
Yeah.
I started figuring out TV a little bit late, but it was, yeah, there's been a few of those where I'm just like, and that's going to happen, and I know some of my friends take like beta blockers and stuff like that when they go do TV and
really?
some, I shot a special this past summer and it was, I think I did we did 2 shows. So the first show, I think I was a little tight that first, I was too tight that first 10 minutes, but the rest of it, I found a place where I can just be like, just do this, just go out and do the thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of it is you get to the point where you're like, shit's not going to work out like you were hoping it would anyways. So no, that's over.
Well, you helped me without even realizing it probably a few years ago when my brother and I stayed at your house for NCAAs.
Oh, that was fun, man. Yeah.
That was during the time that somewhere around my early 40s, I went through this thing where, I was nervous like days in advance to go on stage, and I would just be.
Oh, I remember you telling me that, man. Yeah.
I'd be on the plane just like the whole time freaking out. Like, what is wrong with me? And, a lot of things helped, but one of the things was you looked at me and you go, well, you got to remember, dude, just jokes.
Yeah.
And it is. It's funny how seriously sometimes we can take what's supposed to be nothing but fun.
It's just jokes. And it's also, the other thing is you got to remember, like, we sort of, you trick yourself into thinking like, oh, it's because of luck or because of, you're thinking, well, it's because of luck or because I did the right preparation for that set, or I was in, I did the right mental. Here's the thing, man. You're a professional comedian. You have been for a really long time.
Yeah.
If you talk to any, go to the grocery store and ask any 20 to 30-year-old whether they want to be a professional comedian or not, and they'll tell you they do. Like, you overcame staggering odds to be like somebody who you do this for a living. There's not many people that do. It's not because it's an accident. It's not because of luck. It's not because of whatever. It's because you're good at what you do. Like, and even if you want to go up there and eat it, you're not probably going to not like, it's in your blood. You're going to have a good set, Yeah. It's like, you can have bad ones, but man, especially if they cut the time down or they take it out of a comedy club and hey, Tim, you got to be funny for 5 minutes in front of a studio audience. It's a different skill, and you'll figure, everybody can figure that out too. But if it's going up and entertaining people in front of people that paid to see comedy, you're one of the best at that. Like, and that, like, that can't be undone. No, even if you wanted to undo it, you can't undo it,
Yeah, I try to tell myself that too. It's almost like wrestling. Sometimes, like, I'd have matches I'd be super nervous about for whatever reason, and the guy'd take a bad shot and have his head down, and he'd pop his head up, and he'd pancake the shit out of him, and you don't even think about it,
Right? Yeah.
And it's the same thing with comedy. I'll be nervous out of my head, and then as soon as they announce my name, something just comes over me. All of a sudden I get this calm feeling, especially after I get the first laugh. And
yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, if you can feel, and once you establish some sort of rapport with the audience, it just becomes, okay, I know how to do this, and I wish I could figure it out. And I wish I would have figured it out earlier. You got to let your talent take over, get out of the way of it when you're not thinking. And I think, I thought of as a kid growing up, anything sort of meditation, all that stuff was hokey and don't talk to me about it. And now I'm like, God, I wish I would have maybe looked into that a little bit,
Speaking of OCD, I remember I was at the Comedy Magic Club not too long ago, and this guy was telling me, he's like, yeah, I had to quit meditating because I would be too calm and I wouldn't have as good a sets. He was like, I need those nerves.
Oh,
and
really? Yeah.
it kind of made sense to me because sometimes I'll go out there real calm and I don't, I feel better before I go out, but the result's not as good. So
really,
yeah. So
I don't think much about. I probably don't think enough about that. I sort of just I sort of feel like, do the writing and let the writing carry it, and hopefully if the joke's good enough, it's going to carry it.
Well, it sounds like you've overcome quite a bit of that OCD because it hasn't carried over into your career. You learned how to manage it as far as that.
Somewhat, yeah, somewhat. Like I said, there were some TV appearances that I think I did, that I got in my head, and I do remember early on in comedy where you sort of tried to prepare for a comedy set like a wrestling match, and you get, and I was just too intense on stage. You just get, I'm like square stanced and and it's like, what are you doing, man? This is supposed to be the opposite of that. I think Kenny Smith, buddy of mine, I remember him. He was like, dude, you look like you're about to fight when you're on stage. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not good, is it?
Hey, speaking of fighting, and I'll let you go. I know we've been on here for over an hour, and I know you got things to do, and I got to go pick up my boy. But you're in pretty good shape. You're 50 years old. You were one of the best wrestlers in the country. Could you whoop Joe Rogan?
Oh no, man. No, because I'm not in that good of shape. I'm not in good fighting shape. I mean, that guy. I'm not in that good of shape. I eat right because of my stomach, and but I don't do enough weightlifting or, anything other than a little bit of light cardio. So yeah, pretty sure Joe would beat my ass, man. If he jumped me, I think I might be able to go for a while, but I just don't have it. I mean, the last time, this was probably about 8 years ago, and I was in Columbus, and my buddy Dave Stroop, who runs the club there, he was helping out coach, and they had a clinic or something. And I went and showed some moves at a clinic. And there was a college kid from Ohio State who was good there. And I was like, yeah, let's go some takedowns. And I about had a heart attack, and I was like, that's enough of that, man. I think when I was 40 years old, my dad was coaching still. And we had a kid that was good. He wound up wrestling in Virginia, Steve Doty. He was good. And I would roll with him pretty, I was a, 40-year-old guy, and he was a high school kid, but still, he was good, and I could go. And that was the last time I was in any kind of shape to wrestle. Yeah. Back then, maybe I could have gone with Joe, but nah. I think he looks like he goes pretty hard, man.
Yeah. He's a star.
In my heyday, though, Tim, I think.
I have complete. I still have confidence in you. I have a hard time betting against wrestlers, especially guys that were really freaking good. I think there's something. I think there's something inside of guys like yourself that most people don't have. I know that you're a modest dude. You don't like hearing that kind of stuff, but you're a beast, man.
I was. I promise you, it was past tense, man. I was pretty good for a while. Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go, buddy. But is there anything else that you wanted to? Is there anything you want to plug, or anything you got coming up? Or
no, great to see you, man. Great to talk to you. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I enjoy the podcast. I listen to some episodes. Really like it, man.
Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've been trying to get better at doing it. Especially on the phone, it was hard because I wasn't always done I didn't know when someone was done talking.
Yeah, that's tricky. Yeah.
And you start to interrupt them, and I feel like such a dick. Especially like Barry Davis or somebody that I really respect and looked up to when I was a kid. If I can't hear him, I feel like such a dick going, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's hard, man. Oh, you know what? I probably should plug one thing. Why not?
Okay.
I got a podcast, and it's not a wrestling podcast. It is a weekly review of the New York Times crossword puzzle. It's called One Down. I do it with my buddy Brendan Ayer. It's mostly a comedy podcast, but every week we each of us attempt every puzzle every day of the week, and then we talk about it and write jokes
Nice.
about it. So yeah, if you're not a crossword person, you might still laugh at it. But,
Yeah.
it's definitely not a wrestling podcast.
What's it called?
Called One Down.
One Down. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks a
Yeah.
lot for doing this, Greg. I appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, great to see you, Tim.
You too, man.
I'll see you later,
day.
man.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, everybody. That was Greg Warren. God, he's such a funny person. Like, some of the shit he was saying, like, he wasn't trying to be funny. He just, I don't know, the way he talks and everything. I just think he's one of the funniest dudes ever, and he's a great wrestler. And so that was really fun for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, I realized that I'm looking at my iPad right now, and I realized I just hit stop before it was time to stop. So I'll have to edit some shit in there. But as always, go to makingithappen.com, MACANithappen.com. Help out little Bo Macon and his family during this difficult time, especially. Go to my YouTube, youtube.com/Tim Gaither. Do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube. There's a lot of funny stuff on there. I'm going to have a wrestling podcast on YouTube every Wednesday, and the audio's on SoundCloud and Stitcher and iTunes and all that stuff. So like, subscribe, share. Hey everybody, Tim Gaither here. I forgot to tell you that Greg Warren's special will be out June 30th on Amazon, and he is hilarious. You can watch that with anybody in your family. He's clean, he's very funny, he's truly one of the best comedians in the whole country, and support him, and it's important to laugh these days, so please check that out. And thanks again for supporting my podcast and my YouTube, and I hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you, and take care. Bye. Do us both a favor and click on that subscribe button.